Hey everybody, this is Mr. McKinney with your 1 through 10 on, 1 through 10. 1 through 10 is a system that I use to just make sure I stay connected with my students, make sure that they know that I'm aware of how they feel, and also allows them to be compassionate towards one another and how they're feeling. It's pretty simple. As the title says, they just give a number. 1 is the worst they could be feeling. 10 is the best they could be feeling. There's a couple of guidelines that I use in my classes for this. One is that they can't go outside the scale. So they can't be a 0 or a negative, or they can't be past 10 until that's earned. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I don't allow them to do anything other than quarter points. So they can be a 5.25 or a 7.75, but no random decimals like 3.8567. Okay. They don't give any explanation for their number, right? It's not about explaining why you are the number you are. It's just an exercise in being aware of how people feel, trying to be respectful. And you do need to give them the reasoning, right? I usually tell them it allows me to know how you all are doing. It allows you to know how your classmates are doing. So if somebody's having a bad day, you make sure you don't, get on them about their hair or whatever that day. As you go along, and I do this every day, it becomes kind of a routine that happens. At the beginning, it might seem like they're just randomly, kind of picking a number, which they probably are. But as they do it day after day, well, it was a 3 because of a bad hair day, they realize really wasn't a 3. And the numbers become more dialed in. Now in Zoom or an online environment, I usually put a poll up and I just have even whole numbers. All right, I don't have the decimals or anything, just 1 through 10. They take a poll on how everybody's feeling. I usually share that poll after everybody's filled it out and just be like, hey, the majority of us are 8, or sometimes it's multiple numbers. And then I usually say, hey, whoever's a 7 or above, if you could take that positive energy and give that to your classmates and something like that, and just to show that we can share that energy with one another, and it does have an effect. If you believe that route, I personally do. In Zoom, I usually have them go rename themselves, if this is allowed in your online classroom, and put their number at the end of their name. The reason for that is I want them to realize that they don't need to be shy about how they're feeling, that we're in a respectful, safe place, that people aren't going to bug them, bully them, bother them, and they can just be who they are in that moment. Some other ideas is you could have them just put it, if you don't want it to be with their name the whole period, you just have them put their number in the chat real quick. There's a way to save the chat. I have my roll sheet as well, and I just kind of write down the really low numbers just so I can keep track of those. I also tell them, look, if you're a 2 for a number of days, I'm going to reach out to you. When you've been doing this a while, they get excited when you tell them they might be able to earn the ability to go outside the scale. They can be 0, they can be 100, whatever they want, which is fun. It doesn't give you as much feedback. If you're doing middle school or high school, I'm doing 8th grade, you want to watch out for a few numbers, 69, 420, 69.420. I've been doing it long enough, I just tell them right away, I don't want to see any 69s or 420s, and usually that's enough for them to not see them. Otherwise, you'll see it come up pretty regularly on Fridays. If you're in the physical classroom, some things that I do is I make them be completely silent. That's a one time during class where there is no wiggle room. It has to be silent. And usually I pick a pattern around the room and I just point to the students and they just say their number. After a while, I just keep the same pattern and they just do it on their own. You will have to repeat that process until it is what you want it to look like, as far as being respectful and silent. Because if person's number 1 and they said their number and you have a class of 35, they feel like they've said their number and then they can just start talking. So you really have to be persistent and consistent about what you expect for that. My experience is after a little while, they'll just do it. And it's amazing that silent time is a great way to start class. And there's some other breathing things that I do in addition to that. If that interests you, put some comments below and I will see about making a video on the breathing techniques that I do at the beginning of class. Lastly, this can allow for you to have some deeper discussions about students' ability to choose how they feel, to choose their number. Like, hey, and sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. If you're a 5 or you're a 2, you might want to still say you're a 7, right? Because if you always say you're a 2, you're going to be stuck in a 2. It also allows for discussion on what they allow to bring their numbers down and just talk about attitude and perspective. It also allows them to say, hey, if somebody's taken a chunk out of your number, then you have the ability to increase that. Until next time, stay strong and teach on.